Okay, good morning everyone. We're back. So we're going to go through the Tai Chi Broadsword this morning again, and hopefully you were able to practice last week with the archive video. So we're going to start off again. This is your preparation. Set up your hands, and let's just get a few strokes of the sword just to warm it up. So that's 45-degree diagonal. This is out to the side. This is uppercut. We move to the sides. 1, 2. If you did this continuously, it becomes actually a flower becomes this. Okay. We have the slices to cross the throat or to the neck area. We lift, we switch the sword, and we poke. And this was uppercut, this is over the top. Okay, so let's deep breathing, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, so the leg work, just like in Tai Chi, we have to shift forward and step through, step. This just helps, but you can actually just move less than 45 degrees because we're moving directly forward and we're slicing and shifting the weight. When we turn, you would be cutting up, going with the leg, push the sword, go over the top, cut up, push the sword, sit back, cut up, turn, horse stance, cut up, push, sit back. So you're using the momentum of the leg shift to create the action. Now when I shift, I create the forward position, but then I follow up with the step through. So the step through, so a lot of the movement is created by the momentum created by the shift. So there's a forward action because you're stepping through. Okay. Then we have those twist movements that we turn and we step and we step and we turn, step, step, turn, step, and turn. So that's crossing behind. This is footwork. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's, and the spin, you can stop it whichever direction you plan to go. So if I'm crossing here and I turn, step, and I pause here, I can turn and then face this direction. If I, in the form, we're here, I step up and I twist again, and then I switch and I spin back to the front, and I switch legs to the front. I withdraw the leg and I turn, and I'm here. Then I twist, and then I'm back in this direction. So if I'm here, 1, 2, 3, and I'm back in this direction. Okay, so that's some of the footwork. Now here's another footwork. When we step out, say when we're here, we step out to this direction, and then we step out to here, to here, to here. Okay, when we're moving in the corner. Because the movements, you're just balancing the two sides. So from that point to that point, which is really your two 45-degree corners will set you up in a direction to make your slice. And that's what happens there. The cross step, where we cross like this and we spin, it's the same as this. And then we turn. So the footwork, the cross step is really a transition to take you into a direction. All right. Now, we also have the sliding step. Okay. We have the 180-degree turn. We step up, then we turn. We step up, and we turn. Step up, and we turn. Okay? Now, if we're in this position, we go forward and step through. Then we have a skip step. So that's a sort of a, so when you're here. Then we would here, this is your turn. This is your lift. Cut to the waist, over the head, and set up the vertical blade, and we turn. Okay, so once you're set up here, because we're heading in that direction, you have to turn the body. Then we go to heel down, 1, 2, 3, and then once you're here, you can spin, and this would go down. So there's a breakdown to set up your position to execute the next motion. So you really have to have a good setup in order to stay consistent with your movements. The setup is very, very important, like a neutral position, like a cross hand position that sets you up in the legs. Depending on which leg is forward, this has to be forward in order to twist. If I have this leg forward, I can't twist that way, I have to twist this way. So typically, most of the twist is happening with the front leg, and then the cross behind is the right leg crossing behind. So in the cross positions, you have two positions, cross in front and cross in back. See, cross in back really creates a turn. So that's pretty standard procedure. Even many other maneuvers that require a turning 180 degrees, you can either pivot or cross and turn. So crossing step is really a reverse of direction or switching stance. So in this instance, if I went like this and I turn, I'm facing this way. I go like this, I'm turning this way. When I go like this, I turn this way. If I turn again, I reset, and that's all that's going on is spinning and changing sides from, it's a 180 degree switch. So it's kind of flipping. So here we are, right in the beginning. We have preparation, step up, press forward, sit back, separate the hands, and we're like grasp the sparrow's tail. Set up the hook wrist, but we're turning. There's your square hook. You see what I mean? After grasp the sparrow's tail, we square. We're like this. Turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suspended. That's your suspended toe down. Here's the front position. Go to the corner. 1. Go to the other front side. Now we're going to the 45. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Push forward, go over the top, come undercuts all heading into that corner, go to the left side, and come up to your right. Step out, cross behind, turn, and poke. Rear corner, this foot goes up with the sword, this foot switches, and you stab. 1, 2, 3. Go to the front position, 45 degrees stab down, come to here, look to the corner, step down and chop to the opposite corner. 1. Switch feet, poke. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Push. Now we're going to repeat the cut, and we're going to do the next leg of the form, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn, horse stance, back to center, push the sword forward, and then we're going to repeat that slice again. 1, 2, step through, push, over the top, like brushing the knee, swipe across, hook your wrists, come up, bring the hand together, uppercut, that's an inverting of the sword, poke, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're here. Turn. Sliding step. There's 1, 2. On 3, you could do one more, or on 3 you would turn. So that's really a function of how much space you have. 1, 2, 3. So it's vertical behind. Over the top, back to neutral, create the turn. This is like carry tiger to the mountain, right? But we're going to stay down here. And switch feet. Left foot forward, poke. It's off the back leg. Sit back, like repulse the monkey, step behind. Turn, cut. Right? So you cut, then we spin right into this to repeat this movement. And then take a step forward, thrust shoulder height, sit back, turn, turn. Now the feet are parallel going to that corner. 1. So your foot has to be in that corner to get to that corner. This hand opens like this. Chop. Poke. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, Sink your elbow. Horse stance. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Set up, chop, set up, poke. Now this foot is facing that corner. My blade is going in this corner. I'm turning over to here, so I unwind my legs, and I'm here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. See the back of the blade down. 2, 3. 1, 2. You have to set up your feet directionally, otherwise you will be in the wrong place. Okay, so you can see a lot of adjustments in your positions because you're not, this arm is not always here. Sometimes it's here, sometimes there, sometimes it's here. It adjusts because your postures are always moving. And if you just hold this like this and just move this hand, it's actually not building the relationship we want in the body. So it doesn't matter if it's something in your hand, that your body still has to work as a unit. So between the legs and the hands, when I refer to hands, it's really your arms. When I refer to your feet, it's really your legs. So make sure that you work all of those parts that are on each side. So the wrist, the elbow, the shoulders, the hips, the knees, and the ankles have to be constantly working, building that relationship and building that coordination. There's nothing like the type of coordination we develop. It's something I stress a lot because a lot of people think, I'm exercising, but are you exercising your brain? Are you exercising your neurons? Are you exercising the relationship in your body to build that integration that's really great for preventing age-related degeneration? I use those terms a lot, mainly because to me, I think it's one of the best ways to overcome some of the deficiencies that we have as we not only age, but that we don't acquire throughout our life if we're not actually physically doing things. Physically doing things not meaning just doing, mindless exercise, which is just building, just muscular strength. You have to build functional strength. So when you use something like this and develop that coordination, you're not just developing the martial integrity of a movement. You're developing integrated body that actually is really used in tasks. You really can't do anything without utilizing your legs and your arms. You can't go to the grocery store with just your hand. You have to use your whole body in looking and shopping and picking up or moving your cart around, whatever it is. Carry the bag with you. When you're doing something functionally, it requires a lot more consciousness of what you're doing. Otherwise, if you're using a knife in the kitchen or you're working on the stove, you have to be quite aware about what is going on. If that's the problem with people that develop, say, Alzheimer or something like that. And you're cooking, well, you leave the stove on or you forget you're doing that, that's not a good thing to do. So with this, we try to stay as mindful and conscious with everything that we're doing so that we develop this spatial awareness and awareness of where we are, in the realm of our space or in the realm of what we're doing as a task. So we just did a lot of different movements that requires a lot of coordination. The sequential side of it is pretty challenging for most people, but the people that have been doing it, like Susan or Bill, you guys are watching, you know the form. It's just refinement, and refinement comes from and this is, I've been talking a lot about this in the live classes here, that refinement comes from repetition, and without repetition, the discovery doesn't exist, because you can't discover something that's just kind of passing through. It has to be passing through, reach a certain level of long-term memory, certain level of consciousness and subconscious behavior that your body starts to recognize. So all the information that we feed our brain is really the information that we take in from the principles and the concepts and the sequence. So all that information becomes something that you're working with up here, and that really creates a whole level of intelligence. That intelligence becomes the physical side of intelligence, but that intelligence really is how we wire our system to work on that level. We can actually use our mind without moving, but the thing is, you're not going to get the ultimate circulation in the total body without actually totally moving. Totally moving, not just flailing, but moving sequentially, orderly, with some type of objective at least. So we stab like this. There's an objective to be there. So what is that? Where's your center line? Where's your alignment in the body? Where's this hand? When we're here, where's the stance? That's what you have to understand. Where's this hand? When we're slicing, where's the elbow? Where's the elbow? If I go like this, and I go like this, it doesn't matter where I do this. It's going to be exactly the same, because my muscle memory or the movement has been programmed into my system over time, and it's just there. It's something that I understand happens, but back when I was first learning, I didn't realize how much it could happen. But after, decades and decades and decades of doing it, eventually, that's how slow the body is and the mind to figure out that this is really what happens. So this idea is really not understood, generally by most people, because most people don't do anything that requires it, except for the super athletes. Why does, football players that throw, or baseball players, have such accuracy in the way they pitch or they throw a football or a hockey? How do they develop that accuracy? From years and years. Now, if you're specifically gifted to do a certain task, and if you're fortunate enough to be gifted enough and then fall into the right physical sport that you have the capacity for, you can be a superstar. But how many people actually end up finding that? All those things is part of the karma. Does that work for every individual? No. Most people don't find their real talent. So finding that is one thing as a professional. But most of us practice this recreationally. And why do we practice it? Practice it because we have an interest, but ultimately that interest leads you into a more functional body and much more intelligent, and a lot of the things that we're doing now over time becomes intuitive to many other things that you do on a daily basis. So let's just review a few of the things. So we did the footwork, right? So one of the things that we have is this movement. So you find this sword is vertically on your back, and you notice the blade is facing out. So that's a defensive position. You're just using that sword here to protect your spine. If someone to chop towards your spine, and you someone attack you from behind, you're here. Not that you would, but just this position is a position that, what, person would be in this position if they weren't going in the position with the sword. It's just not a natural thing to do normally. But once you've developed the idea that the sword comes here, and then you find vertical, you find the verticalness behind you. So that's proprioception. I know that the blade is on my back, in the middle of my back, between the shoulder blades and on the spine, and I stand up like this. And then I go like this. 1, 2, 3. There's your 45. So if you look in the mirror, there's your 45. And then it goes to this, and there's your other 45. So it comes across like this. It comes under the leg, and then it comes back, and then you're here again. You go up, over the top. Nothing better than finding your center and going over the top. Because if you go over here, it's going to be tilted. It's hardly ever over here because your arm doesn't go there. But, over the head or angular is the slices, but over the head is the most accurate. It's the same line that you use like if you're chopping wood or a log. Actually, one of our instructors, Sifus, Rob chops wood a lot, and he said, boy, it's a big difference when you let it go and hit the wood, hit the log. I don't chop wood, but I can visualize the action that a wood chopper is doing, and you take the axe and you come down and you sink with it and you chop. There's your movement. And it's very precise. It just comes down, boom. And you let it go because it has to follow through. And the action of splitting is that. It just drops and gravity works with you. So, and then you can't hold the weapon too tight, just so you can't hold an axe too tight, because what ends up happening is the response from the force acting back on the axe resonates through into your hand and could cause damage in your wrist, or the head of the axe is going to break because the force has to be taken back somewhere. So either the wood splits or it becomes boom, and then the force comes back to you as an equal opposite action. So that's something that happens. When we slice, we really just want to guide it and carry it through. Carry it through. Carry it through. You get a better cut and a better slice. And it's an action, it's not chopping, it's slicing. Because chopping is sudden, like splitting wood. You can't slice the wood because there's not enough pressure. So slicing is very precise. You're cutting and taking it through as smoothly as possible. So that's kind of the goal in the whole thing, is to get that action. And stabbing is really from the legs. And if you notice, when you stab, your wrist goes a little bit higher here in order to create, because if your wrist stays bent, look at the tip. So these are things that you have to do when you analyze the motion. Now, when you cut like this, your wrist position is actually like this. It's not straight like this, because if you hold the sword like this and you cut, you actually are not cutting. You're pulling the blade in. In slicing, your hand has to be, this V section in the hand is the tiger's mouth. It has to be on the back of the handle here, not on the side of the handle. It's on the back, the same as the back of here. So your hand is there. And then when you close, your thumb is on one side, your fingers on the other, and it's held lightly so that you can maneuver your wrists. The reason why you can't overgrip is because when you overgrip, your forearm tightens, and the forearms control the ligaments and tendons that move your fingers. So in order to control that, the ligaments and tendons have to be working independently, really, because that independent manipulation of your fingers is really controlled up in here. and it's controlled up in here, really. So really, when you're holding the sword, you're manipulating and maneuvering the grip, changing the grip slightly in order to manipulate the blade edge to create the different slicing actions. So there's passive active action. During a transition, you have to be as soft as possible. During the finalization of the movement, you have to set it up and then execute just like you were throwing a punch or opening. You have to finish the movement and then go to the next. So those are ideas that a lot of people, when they're first picking up something like this, don't understand. So this applies to this. It applies to your traditional forms, whether it's the Tai Chi paradigm or the long form. All of these concepts are theories, and you have to be and tied to principle, obviously, that those principles are the guidance of your movement. Without the principle, it's just kind of random. So you can just pick up, a sword and just kind of swing it around, but that really, there's no finesse to it. There's no, real control or preciseness to that. So the preciseness comes from, as in everything that we do, referencing, reference points, 45 degrees, center line, eye level, shoulder level. Now in this case, because we're slicing like this, we have also maybe a 10-degree angle here. This is horizontal, this is angled slightly, this is 45, and this is vertical. So you have to have, slight angles, and that angle position allows you to sync with the motion and use gravity and allow your shoulder not to be compromised, because if you go completely horizontally like this, your shoulder really doesn't like it. So when it doesn't like it, you can feel the tendons in your shoulder and the muscles, they're kind of responding because it's going into a tighter mode, and that tighter mode doesn't allow for freedom of movement when that becomes conflict. So when you have an apparatus in your hand, you have to really be careful not to over tense your shoulder and end up throwing your shoulder slightly misaligned in the position. So if you're doing it fast, there's a chance of injury. Because we're doing it slowly, there's a better able to sense and feel that you might not be doing it exactly right. So I think it's pretty close to time, right, Mana?
Yes.
Okay.
We got time.
It's a half hour. So we started at
10:15.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
Can we go to 11:45?
Yeah, 11:45. Is that the time?
Yeah. I'm going by the.
Oh, yeah.
So we still got time.
Oh, okay. All right. How many? 2 minutes?
No, it's only 10.
Oh, no, go by your clock.
Okay. It's 10:50.
10:50. So we passed it.
No, you still got time because it ends at 11:15, right?
No, it started at 10. It was
10:15 to 11.
10:15.
10:15 to 11:45 says on the calendar.
Oh, 10:15. 10.
Is that wrong?
10:15 to 11:45. No, that's right. Do we start at 10:15?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what time is it here?
It's 9, 10 minutes to 11.
10 minutes to 11. So that's 10:45.
And then the other.
10 minutes to 11. So yeah.
Wrong actually, because so it ends at 10:45.
Oh no, don't go by this clock. Don't go by this clock. Yeah.
11. So I think it's done.
Yeah. It should have been done. So anyway, we're a little confused because the clock here is wrong. Anyways, so I hope you got something out of that and practice more. You can review the video, give us a thumbs up, and hope to be seeing you soon. We're going to come up with our new schedule for September and under new model. As you probably all know, the return of students hasn't been as it's been pretty bad. So anyways, on that note, I'll see you next time.